I shared a one-bedroom apartment with a female and a guy, much like in Alice in Wonderland, and the girl and the man and I were sitting on a pull-out couch, and we were acting as though we wouldn't let him sleep until we were ready. We're leaving, no. After 30 years of glittering stardom, 20 stints in recovery, and many performances in police reports. That is Heather Lear's conundrum. Once hailed as the TV sweetie who has appeared in Spin City, Melrose Place, and Dynasty, now serve as a reminder of the tragedies that lurk behind the bright lights of Hollywood. When she was at her best, Heather's ice smile, piercing eyes, and royal beauty made her an iconic image, eyes that captivated everyone. However, as the glitzy posters started to disappear, hard realities came to light. Long, suffocating marriages, a broken soul, and psychological conflicts from which there seemed no way out. What startled the sad disclosure made by her daughter, Ava Sambora, was more widely known than the scandals. When that reality arose, people came to understand that no punishment imposed by the outside world could never be as harsh as the suffering that a mother endures. Heather's tail layer is more than merely the decline of a once bright star. It is additionally a mirror that reflects a never-ending conversation between light and dark, between celebrity and isolation, between an enduring idol in the eyes of the public and a lady who is constantly fighting herself. And maybe Heather herself was the true foe, not the outside world. That on September 25, 1961, Heather Dean Lear was born in Los Angeles, California, and was raised in a San Fernando Valley middle-class suburb. Bill Lear, her father, a former Marine who went on to work at UCLA, taught his kids the value of knowledge, religion, and patriotism. Diane Lear, her mother, a Disney production executive, instilled creativity in the home. Her mother's creative flair and her father's military discipline combined to create a special atmosphere that fostered Heather's ambition and structure. Heather's early years left her with such an impression that led some people to think it was the inspiration for a Tom Petty song. From a young at this age, she was a well-behaved daughter who had a strong bond with her parents. However, kids will be kids. Heather evaded corporal punishment once when she was 6 years old, that penalty, using persuasive charm with her parents. She not only succeeded at that precise moment, but she also persuaded them that should give up on the notion of such discipline. Altogether, Heather learned for the first time that sometimes kindness could win out over strict regulations. Nevertheless, her voyage into adolescence wasn't easy at all. Heather acknowledged that during her high school years, she was nothing noteworthy, not intelligent enough, not noteworthy enough, and turned away from the cheerleading team, wearing braces, having acne, and being made fun of by classmates for her flat chest and slender figure. She did, however, date one boy for 4 years, splitting up and getting back together several times, including on prom night. Paradoxically, those ostensibly dark years helped Heather develop the fortitude she would eventually need to make it through Hollywood. Heather turned to the arts to cope with her adolescent anxieties. She featured in school productions, dazzling on stage with an innate assurance and presence that attracted the attention of both instructors and students. Additionally, she immersed herself in extracurricular activities, frequently being selected as a standout face for school-related activities. During those times, it was evident that although she might have felt unworthy in daily life, Heather Lear never faltered in front of a crowd. She did exceptionally well in school and had once intended to pursue a major profession in psychology at UCLA, thinking she may pursue a career in academics and research. However, destiny had already planned another walkway, lit by stage lights, called her name, and extended an invitation that Heather could not turn down. During her time at UCLA, the once ugly duckling started to change into a swan shortly after graduating from high school. Bibby coincidence, Heather was able to secure her first modeling position for the university's fashion catalog for Bearwear. Her goal of becoming an international star at the age of 55 before it could take shape, the supermodel swiftly vanished. However, that menial job created an entirely new avenue for the performing arts, Heather. Numerous people have attempted to transition from modeling to acting, but few were successful, particularly in the early stages of their careers. The exception was Heather. She was only 20 when she suddenly got her initial appearance in the 1980s primetime serial opera Dynasty, which was about a Denver oil dynasty. Although Heather possessed the attractiveness and charm that producers sought, her acting abilities fell short. She was so scared that she had trouble with even the most basic things, like going on stage and saying her lines. In one embarrassing instance, she stopped in the middle of a dramatic pause, causing producer Elaine Rich to say, "Oh my." Elaine Rich even made the decision to send Heather to a vocal coach in order to reduce her screams by teaching her to count to 3 to many octaves because her uncontrollably high-pitched voice lacked the seriousness her character was necessary. In those early, challenging days, Heather Lear stood on the brink of a fantastic chance and the possibility of being ignored. However, in spite of her initial discomfort, Heather declined to back off. She studied intently, worked tirelessly, and gradually turned her dynasty position as Sammy Jo Carrington into a launching pad that helped her the list of names that viewers of television would never forget. It was the first step that allowed Heather Lear to overcome her shyness as a UCLA studento, one of the iconic television personalities of the 1980s. The 1980s saw the beginning of All, and Heather Lear experienced the opulent excesses that characterized Hollywood. In addition to success, Dynasty, the renowned primetime soap opera, was Heather's first significant hit before the Melrose Place era. Throughout the 1980s, she played the sultry blonde, Sammy Jo Carrington, magnetic but scheming. With the character's rapid rise to prominence, Dynasty was able to gain access to the Nielsen Top 10 and attract tens of millions of weekly viewers in the United States. For almost 10 years, Heather remained with Dynasty. 1981 and 1989. And it was because of this job that she went from being a newcomer to Asta of the home television show. Viewers saw Heather in primetime week after week. And the Lear name became a new Hollywood icon over time. It was the basis for her fame. In Dynasty, without Sammy Jo Carrington, there would never been Melrose Place's Amanda Woodward. Additionally, after Dynasty, she starred with the renowned Starfleet actor William Shatner and T.J. Hooker. Captain, who referred to Heather as his main inspiration. Paradoxically, the show's costume hid the curves that were thought to be her best feature. Desperate to keep viewers interested, the producers came up with a strange approach: cushion bras and even undergarments that have fictitious buttocks. Heather put up with the large bra for a few weeks, but she vehemently objected when she found padded underwear in the dressing room. "That I won't have to wear it, will you?" The Drew Barrymore show later on, Heather chuckled. "Despite the fact that my butt and chest were flat, I would never let someone use anything phony to define me." That determination made Heather the genuine Stacey Sheridan, even if it compelled authors to include go-go or swimsuit scenes, moments of dancing, to please the crowd. But above and beyond those tricks, Stacey Sheridan's contributions solidified during the 1980s. Heather was known as the Golden Girl of television, and Late Melrose Place was the ideal setting for her explosion. From the picture of Anu in the 1990s, Heather gained even more notoriety as Amanda Woodward in Dynasty and T.J. Hooker, Melrose Place. At first, only 4 episodes were scheduled, but Heather's entrance generated a huge increase in ratings, going from 94 in the first season to 50 in the second, attracting about 15 million weekly viewers in the United States. Amanda, shrewd, strong, and unyielding, quickly emerged as the focal point of the performance. Millions of viewers were captivated by Heather's screens, but also received 4 Golden Globe nominations in a row for the part. Alongside Melrose Place, Heather Lear was more than just a television personality. She rose to become the decade's ace, acclaimed by the media as the queen of prime time, and fans go crazy for her every time she appears. Melrose Place was not the end of that summit. Late in the 90s, Heather Lear joined the sitcom Spin City, further solidifying her status. Ratings were starting to plateau at the time, and producers looked for help from Heather. In fact, her portrayal of Caitlin Moore, a shrewd, clever, and hilarious political assistant, gave the program new energy and drew viewers back to their displays. Heather had successfully saved a series for the second time, her incredible recovery at Melrose Place. Heather left her stamp on the set, not just with her personality, but also with her enthusiasm. Once, Michael J. Fox claimed that she brought new life and femininity to the program, while Charlie Sheen, who eventually took Fox's place, described her as the ideal co-star, shrewd but capable of reduce the stress. In actuality, Heather served as the crucial link that enabled viewers to accept the delicate change that when Parkinson's condition forced Michael J. Fox to resign. Consequently, the Heather received 2 consecutive Golden Globe nominations for Best Actress in a Film for her portrayal of Caitlin from 2000 to 2001, a series that are comedies or musicals. Unmistakable evidence that she could excel in humor in addition to being the queen of drama. Following Spin City, Heather showed her tenacity by working with Boston Legal in 2007 to 2009. The highly regarded judicial drama that included some of the greatest experienced performers. When the majority of her peers had faded or retired, Heather decided to reappear in a more sophisticated and demanding genre after falling into obscurity. It was now a significant late flowering rather than Melrose Place's glitzy apex with skyrocketing ratings. She demonstrated her ability to escape the constraints of comedy and soap operas by engrossing herself in sober, gritty programs that are driven by laws. Viewers were taken aback when Heather appeared in a more subdued, less glitzy look, engaging in courtroom combat rather than a complicated love stories she used to be famous for. This change was indicative of not only her maturity as a professional and her will to maintain her reputation in a television industry that is changing quickly. Unlike Melrose Place, Boston Legal did not make her the ace card. However, it portrayed Heather Locklear as a celebrity who has matured and is an actress who is not interested in boxing. Even when the spotlight dimmed, they continued to take chances without fear. Popular shows were not the only source of recognition. In a rare opportunity, Heather received 2 invitations to host Saturday Night Live, a standard of celebrity that only real A-listers can meet. 1991 saw her get a vote. People's Choice Award winner for Best Female Television Performance. These achievements demonstrated that Heather's popularity went well beyond the screen and entered American pop culture in general. Heather Locklear was almost always present on America's most watched television show for 20 years. Series. She was praised by the media as the queen of prime time, a unique term that reflected her near uncontested status. Supremacy. She frequently made appearances on the covers of Rolling Stone and TV Guide. And was frequently listed as one of the most attractive women in America by People magazine. Once from the uncomfortable girl, Heather Locklear became a pop culture hero after being teased in high school. This was the height of her career when Hollywood watched every step of the dominant television queen. As tumultuous as the television series she starred in, Heather Locklear's personal life starred in. Prior to Richie Sambora, she had previously faced a prominent marriage to Tommy Lee, drummer for the Mötley Crüe. A proposal marked the start of their romance, as extravagant as any cliché in rock. On Christmas Eve of 1985, within an opulent, Tommy burst through the sunroof of the limousine and slipped a glittering 2.3-carat diamond ring on Heather's hand and yelled, "Will you marry me?" while his hair whipped in the wind, untamed, careless, and oddly intoxicating. May 10, 1986, was the day they sealed their union in an extravagant ceremony, followed by Hollywood's full attention. However, behind the splendor, their Cayman Islands honeymoon turned into a nightmare. The pair got into a fight so brutally that the local government had to step in. After marriage, married life appeared to Keeter, but it never brought Heather the joy she so desperately desired for her family. Tommy boasted in interviews that his wife was capable of downjacking Daniels like a rock star. A startling contrast to Thane her early Dynasty days, Heather found it difficult to even pretend to be intoxicated. However, behind the romantic portrayal was harsher realities. Unofficial biographies claim that Tommy engaged in not just booze and careless partying, but also acted aggressively. During his outbursts, insiders remembered Heather getting bruises and even being pushed up against a wall. Anxious to Heather made every effort to keep the marriage intact, including pressuring Tommy to attend AA meetings, going to couples counseling, even went through AIDS testing together after Tommy's known needle-sharing partner, Althea Flint, was identified as having the illness. They survived till 1993 as a married couple. Many referred to it as a miracle. However, the end was coming. One point of rupture supposedly occurred when Heather got home and discovered her cherished little puppy dead after being assaulted by Tommy's Rottweiler. Even though he denied it, the incident highlighted their intractable distance from one another. As soon as Heather and after 7 years, Tommy ultimately got a divorce, citing simple, irreconcilable differences as the formal cause. However, Those who were aware of the reality realized that it was a chaotic marriage where a rising A television personality had decided to marry a defiant 23-year-old rock musician, only to have to pay with years afterable disillusionment, sorrow, and stressed. In 1994, a year later, Heather started her second marriage, this time to Bon Jovi's renowned guitarist Richie Sambora. There at one point, union was praised as one of the most exquisite love stories in Hollywood. At the height of her career, Heather, like Melrose Place's Amanda Woodward, and rock star Richie appeared to be a match forged in heaven. Lisa Christie, a makeup artist, introduced them, and they soon fell in love, and 7 months later, Richie gave them a pear-shaped Cartier diamond ring as a Christmas proposal. While the media couldn't quit calling them, Heather proudly displayed it at the Emmy Awards the very next day, the golden pair of entertainment. They were married on December 17, 1994, and Hollywood as a whole watched the lovely Parisian ceremony. A rock superstar and a television star together looked ideal. Ava Sambora, their daughter, was born in 1997. Covers of magazines were replete with pictures of the ideal Hollywood family. Ava was characterized as the personification of her affection. Although Richie and Heather were hailed as America's golden family, but there were fissures showing through the glitz. Richie was always on while Heather was preoccupied with her unrelenting filming schedule, traveling with Bon Jovi. Their disparate ways of living their work schedules prevented them from finding equilibrium. By 2006, Heather abruptly filed for divorce, claiming irreconcilable differences in Los Angeles Superior Court distinctions. She requested visitation and custody of 8-year-old Ava in the suit writes for Richie. Notably, a prenuptial agreement to resolve financial issues had already been signed by the couple. Although the divorce garnered media attention, Richie's response stunned the public even more. While traveling with Bon Jovi, informed ABC News that everything is good at home, including stating that he still intended to see Heather on Valentine's Day. Obviously, even he had been caught off guard by her choice. The couple had denied reports of strife in the media just months prior, saying that after 11 years we're still happy together. True, but boring. However, when Heather filed formally, overnight, those guarantees fell apart. When Richie swiftly started dating following the divorce, it was the genuine blow with Heather's old best friend, Denise Richards. Denise wasn't your average actress. Heather had thought of her as a sister and trusted her. For it was considered a double betrayal for Denise to date Richie so soon after the split. The headline shouted, "Best friend and love storm destroy friendship, becomes the other woman." Heather had to deal with double standards, while Denise was labeled a home wrecker. Grief after losing her best friend and hubby. This treachery is not only destroyed Heather's idealized family, but also threw her into a profound emotional emergency. She was devastated to be deceived by the two persons she trusted the most. Spirit, laying the groundwork for years of struggles with addiction and mental health. Richie Sambora's divorce did more than just dissolve a marriage. It was the start of a gloomy turn that would characterize a large portion of Heather's difficult later in life. How do you feel about this complicated romantic triangle? If it were you, would you be able to bounce back from such a catastrophic emotional setback? Following her acrimonious divorce from the lives of Richie Sambora and Heather Locklear descended into a seemingly never-ending, gloomy descent. She still had the appearance of a star on the surface, but on the inside she was struggling with despair, anxiety, inner demons, and abusing prescription drugs, in addition to upsetting her life. These mental health issues dragged her into a string of dramatic legal scandals. When Heather was arrested in February 2018, it was the tipping point following a furious dispute with her boyfriend, Chris Heiser, at her house in Westlake Village, California. The police were phoned at 9:40 p.m. They had to hold her back after she assaulted 3 responding people in addition to her boyfriend. Officers, leading to 3 accusations of battery against law enforcement and domestic violence charges. While during interrogation, she allegedly threatened to shoot the police if they returned to her home, which led to officials check her house for the registered gun, but they couldn't find it. Even worse, in June, a few months later in 2018, Heather was taken into custody once more for attacking a police officer and during another drunken outburst with family and friends. A paramedic was called in to help. Accompanying her after being released, she was admitted to the hospital for a possible overdose. Just 1 week earlier, following allegations that Heather was suicidal and had turned violent, firemen raced to her house. This series of 8 criminal charges were brought against Heather as a result of the occurrences, including 5 counts of violence on an officer, 1 count of charges of impeding law enforcement, as well as battery against emergency workers. She agreed to 30 days of required therapy at a mental health facility in order to avoid going to jail. Facility, a 120-day jail sentence that is deferred pending her 3 years of probation in the program. Additionally, she was restricted from consuming alcohol, prohibited from possessing firearms, and compelled to participate in drug rehab. As Heather's mug photographs appeared in tabloids, the once-admired TV queen became a representation of demise. The public watched in dismay as they learned that Heather Locklear, the previous primetime queen, was now the focus of crime reports and stories warning of the terrible price of celebrity. Despite the constant upheavals in her life, Heather Locklear maintained one constant in her: Ava Sambora, her daughter. When Heather reached her lowest point, due to her addictions and precarious mental state, Ava became the only thing keeping her mother afloat, but could muster the strength to get back up. Ava did more than just see her mom fall apart. She grasped Heather's hand through each exhausting phase of hardship. Their relationship was much more than blood. It turned into a lifeline for both lifting and recovering. Ava was there for Heather throughout her treatment and recuperation, not just with silent care, but with unwavering trust in her mom. Frequently on social media, Ava declared her adoration and affection for Heather. Despite her personal struggles, she constantly put her mom first. At one point, she revealed, "My mother has always supported me, always reassuring and mentoring me. I only want to return the favor now." A straightforward phrase, but it contained all of it. Adaptability, unwavering affection, and the bond between the mother and daughter became Heather's lone source of stability during the terrible times. Following years of quiet and after bearing scars too deep to reveal, Ava Sambora at last opened out about the causes of her mother's tragedy. Heather had a face. In addition to shocking the audience, Ava's story also revealed the real reason for her mother's protracted dilemma. Ava claims that her acrimonious divorce from Richie Sambora in 2006 did not just dissolve a marriage that appeared to be ideal. It paved the way for years of turmoil and sorrow. Heather used to be a loyal. She felt empty, abandoned, and lost all of a sudden as a mother and wife. When Richie swiftly started dating Denise Richards, who had previously been Heather's best friend, the hurt increased. Heather had placed a great deal of faith in Denise, a member of the family. For she upset Heather by entering her ex-husband's life so quickly after the divorce. For Heather, it wasn't not only the dissolution of a marriage, but also the double betrayal of a friend and a romantic partner. According to Ava, this shock was the catalyst for her mother's decline into mental instability, anxiety, loneliness, sadness, and ultimately a prescription drug addiction as a momentary reprieve. The ongoing strain of media attention simply made the injury worse because every little detail the public was made aware of Richie and Denise's relationship. Fans were able to comprehend why, after Ava's disclosure, once a beloved television icon, Heather had fallen so far. The separation, Richie's romance with Denise Richards, which made headlines, created scars that were too deep to heal easily. She endured years of agonizing anguish there as a result of her personal tragedy. The reality that just after the divorce, Denise, her best friend, started seeing Heather's ex-husband, sent Heather had a severe mental breakdown. The sense of betrayal that comes from she wasn't just devastated by her ex-partner and her best buddy. It forced her into a never-ending conflict with loneliness, despair, and anxiety. According to Ava, these experiences left her mother feels duped and will never be able to trust anyone again. This was not just a private loss. Heartache. It exposed a harsh reality. The worst disasters don't always originate from those we have the utmost faith in, not from adversaries outside. For Heather, losing both of her was like having the very shoulders she depended on torn away when her husband and best friend appeared at the same time. It brings up agonizing query. How can anyone remain upright when the most important sources of due friendship and love fall apart at the same time? Maybe it's not career or celebrity that eventually shatters a person, but the void left when friendship and love both disappear at the same time. Following two after several failed marriages, Heather Layer discovered new hope with her Melrose, Jack Wagner, Place co-star, where they had portrayed the flamboyant couple Peter Burns and Amanda Woodward. On screen, they in a romantic turn of events, participants pretended to be dead in order to get away from the chaos that off-screen. Neither of them married again until 2007. After they had both divorced, they formally joined forces. In August 2011, 4 years later, Vanner Heather accepted the proposal. However, the happiness was fleeting. Only 3 months later, because of the difficulties and heavy demands of wedding planning, they called off the engagement that included their kids and families. However, there was no animosity at the conclusion of the partnership. Later, Wagner acknowledged that the two stayed in contact, sometimes checking in or sending birthday greetings, but yet still regarded one another as good friends. This relationship demonstrated that in spite of individual heartbreaks, Heather decided to cherish a lovely memory with a co-star who had shared her most treasured moments, years at Melrose Place. However, many more years would pass after her relationship with Jack Wagner ended before Heather discovered a more profound and long-lasting love. This time with Chris Heiser, her high school sweetheart. They got back together. He eventually turned into Heather's emotional support system amid one of the most trying times of her life in 2017. That enabled her to regain her equilibrium. Their relationship reached its zenith in April 2020 when Heather and Chris formally became engaged. The timing was particularly significant. It happened to be with Heather marking 1 year sober, a milestone that her daughter, family, and friends all celebrated. Ava. They are genuinely happy together. A close family friend told People. Parents, siblings, daughter, and family are all happy and supportive for her. A lavish wedding was not necessary for Heather to be happy. In an interview, she clarified, "Whether we get married or not, you'll be my husband for life. What counts is that the important thing is to be with one another, to love and support one another." In her public statements, Heather frequently highlighted how she felt at ease with Chris at home, a unique tranquility following years of upheaval. "He is the most laid-back, affectionate dude. He always backs me, and I back him. To me, he is genuinely incredibly special." In 2021, Heather greeted the milestone with confidence as they both reached 60. "I sense youthful. It's only 60. Perspective is important." Chris was more than just a companion. He turned into observe Heather's recuperation. Their engagement during the time she recovered from years of abstinence was viewed as a ray of hope, a beacon at the end of a long, dark path. Despite not having an Emmy or an Oscar, Heather Layer has had a significant impact on American television that is indisputable. From Melrose Place and Spin City to Dynasty and T.J. Hooker, she was always regarded as the key tactic used by top producers when ratings needed to be saved, and she delivered nearly every time. A precedent was set as a result. And when a show required a boost in the 1980s and 1990s, Heather Layer's name was frequently the initial option. She was more than just a performer. She contributed to the development of a new TV character archetype, the monarch of primetime, powerful and sensual, but contradictory on the inside. Her function as in Melrose Place, Amanda Woodward not only made Heather the most famous person in the world, but she also became a cultural icon throughout the 1990s. She was once referred to by the media as the Alexis Carrington of today, although they argued that without Amanda, Melrose's Place could never have become a global phenomenon. Went beyond the tiny screen. They were asked to host Saturday Night Live twice. Heather demonstrated that she was an integral element of American pop culture and not only the face of television dramas. Additionally, when the People's Choice Award for Favorite Female Television went to her in 1991, it wasn't just a trophy performer. It was acknowledgement that Heather had grown to be a recognizable figure in millions of every Monday night in American living rooms. Thus, the legacy of Heather Layer is unique. Not a dazzling movie career, but an enduring relationship with TV viewers for over 20 years. She demonstrated that occasionally regular presence, and the more important than the most coveted accolades, is the capacity to retain viewers. And however, there is a paradox when people talk about Heather. Will people remember her more for her well-known roles or the tragedy in her personal life that overshadowed her life? This conflict may be what makes Heather Layer's legacy so distinctive, dazzling, delicate, and unforgettable. Heather Lear is not longer makes appearances on screen as often as she did during her prime. However, she still maintains her public pay attention. Following significant life changes, Heather has opted for a more peaceful living in California. She is frequently seen concentrating on her family and preserving her mental health, walking around her neighborhood in casual attire, occasionally grinning with her daughter Ava or friends, a far cry from the former dominator of American television, the queen of primetime. What most affects viewers is Heather's long-lasting relationship with Ava Sambora. In numerous, Ava has been more than just a daughter at times. She has been a source of emotional support and a witness to her mother's difficulties and a slow recovery. In addition, Heather has gotten back in touch with a few former business acquaintances, but she now stays away from rumors and nearly never accepts Hollywood's glitzy occasions. However, 2025 has witnessed a number of uncommon reemergences that astonish the public. Along with pals, Heather joined the What Do You Want podcast, Melanie Mansell and Jillian Barberie, attracting attention with her positive attitude and glowing appearance. April 2025, she spoke about her television career at the Calgary Expo in Canada. And soon after, she experienced a Not the Toronto Fan Expo, an emotional reunion with Michael J. Fox took place almost 25 years ago following their collaboration on Spin City. These incidents demonstrated that she still possessed the charm to entice viewers to the bright recollection of her history. Not all of the news was happy, but in May people verified that Heather and her longtime partner Chris Heiser had a child in 2025, separated after about 5 years of engagement. However, according to insiders, she was in excellent spot, implying that Heather had managed to persevere following yet another personal failure. Her tenacity and recuperation only strengthened public respect. Heather, meanwhile, has continued to be the main topic of conversation regarding a possible reboot of Melrose Place. She didn't sidestep the rumors at a 2025 panel, instead, talking candidly about her viewpoint. Charles Pratt, the producer, even disclosed that Heather's large compensation had previously been a major factor in the show's cancellation, demonstrating how unique she was in the 1990s. Heather herself considered the crippling demands of looks she had to deal with, describing how the extremely short every time you sat down at Melrose's Place, the skirts were nearly showing. A tiny information that revealed the years-long, unrelenting expectations that television put on her. At home, Heather provides her home as a haven, a place of safety where she can find tranquility after solits of storms. There are rumors that she might be thinking about going through therapy again to maintain her equilibrium, demonstrating that her fight against addiction and mental illness is far from over. However, her choice to live a quiet life, recover in solitude, and enter the spotlight only when she is ready has caused her to even more powerful. Heather Lear, who is now in her 60s, no longer holds onto the past of the past, but welcomes tranquility in day-to-day existence. Previously, her admirers loved her for she is now remembered for her classic roles as well as the bravery of her terrible path. And maybe itis that very fortitude that will be the image of Heather Lear that her audience remembers the best. Heather once a television personality, Lear later became a woman who fell a lot, but kept gaining the fortitude to get back up. Even if the bright spotlight is no longer there, she teaches a valuable lesson. Fame is not the source of true peace. Rather, it is the bravery to face oneself. Despite the obstacles on her road to rehabilitation, Heather has displayed incredible tenacity and resolve. What makes her journey even greater, the fact that she has never been completely alone, is significant. Ava Sambora is her daughter, has stuck by her side, acting as a source of support and motivation for her to continue onward. Rather than concentrating just on the falls, maybe we might honor her battle to return, a difficult but incredibly courageous trip. And do you perceive a fading star or a resilient one when you look at her turbulent path, a woman taking back her light? Please let us know what you think and remember to subscribe so that we can keep discovering more untold life narratives in tandem.